Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 Procore Initial Research Show. It is great to be back after 3 weeks off here at Calls. 2 weeks, per usual, at the end of the Tour Championship and before the fall portion of the schedule starts. And then I did not do anything for the Tour Championship. So 3 weeks off. It's great to be back. We've got the fall portion of the schedule coming up. A lot of good information to be gathered to prepare ourselves for the 2026 season. There's not a lot of, a lot of attention being paid to the fall portion of the schedule, with the exception of the Ryder Cup this year. But I love this portion of the schedule, these fall events, to find out who you need to keep an eye on for the 2026 year. As we all know, football started this week, or at least pro football started this week, so feel free to jump into chat with any of your success from week one of your NFL wagering, your fantasy football teams. Maybe you've been doing a little college football. I myself hit a small little parlay yesterday on college football, so feel free to jump in and chat with any success you have with that. But we are here mostly for the Procore Championship, and of course, if you want to talk a little bit of Ryder Cup, which will be happening in 2 weeks, feel free to jump into chat as well. But let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. There are a lot of great golf analytic tools out there, no doubt about that. I just simply believe Fantasy National is the best. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally on Mondays I try to post some research regarding some course information, patterns of previous winners of the tournament of that week, players in the field that also fit those patterns. I'll try to do something for the Procore for tomorrow. Can't guarantee it, but normally, if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contests I play. That comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show, so that'll be out later this week. You want to see the players that I'm using most often in my lineups, players I've wagered my own money on, give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. I can't recommend it enough. He is going to take the fall off, so no picks challenge for the fall, no write-ups, as he has let me know that he is going to be working on some side projects or some enhancements to the Fringe that he's kind of put on the back burner. So he's going to try to get that done this fall. However, I will say we are planning on doing something for the Ryder Cup, whether that's the picks challenge or something else entirely. We're still working on what we might want to do for the Ryder Cup, so stay tuned for that. But go give Gabe a follow over on social media. Go show him some support and subscribe to that article, because during the regular PGA Tour season, it is a great source of information. Lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat's open. In addition to everything that I mentioned, earlier, how is your Tour Championship? How has your college football wagering gone? Maybe you've been playing some August and September baseball. How did your week one fantasy football go? All of that, let me know. And then moving forward for the Procore, what do you think of the 10 Ryder Cup players, or at least the American Ryder Cup players that are playing in the field this week at the Procore? What do you think of that? Any Ryder Cup discussion, feel free to jump into chat. And as always, if you're not able to catch the show live, put your thoughts and opinions into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. Let's get into it. Let's do our initial research for the 2025 Procore. And we're going to start, as we always do, on a Sunday evening over at the GCSAA tournament fact sheet. I am trying to center my camera there. The Procore has been fairly consistent on the PGA Tour. It has just been named many different things. When I started, this was the Safeway Open. Then it became the Fortinet, and now the title sponsor is Procore. So it has been a fairly consistent tournament on the PGA Tour, and also very consistently. Which way do I need to get the camera go? That way. And also very, very consistently in the fall. We are in Napa, California, beautiful Napa, California, at Silverado Resort, specifically the North Course. There are 2 courses at Silverado Resort and Spa, the North and the South. We are at the North Course for tournament play here at Silverado. The architect of Silverado is Ben Harmon, so nothing to do with Architect Filter in Fantasy National. Renovated by RTJ, Johnny Miller later on. So nothing to do with Course Architect for this week. We'll come and cover some notes here momentarily. Silverado is a pretty darn short par 72, not even measuring 7,200 yards. Quite a unique setup, however, as you go par 35, par 37. But you do have what I'll say is a traditional par 72. You have your full 4 par 3s, 4 par 5s, just kind of split up differently, if you will, among the 9s. Again, short course, only 7,100 yards, and it'll play shorter, considering Napa sits a little bit at elevation as it is. The greens are bent and Poa annua. So don't mind me as I grab my notes here. There are several courses that have bent and Poa annua. Detroit, host of the Rocket Mortgage, of course Silverado, TPC River Highlands, the host of the Travelers. I do believe that Caves Valley was bent in Poa annua. In fact, let me bring up the GCSAA, and we'll take a quick look just to make sure. Nope, it was just bent. 007 and L93 bent for the BMW. Which one am I thinking of that had bent in Poa annua? Maybe it was the Barracuda? Yeah. Towards the end of the season, which those stats are not in Fantasy National, since it is not a stroke play event, but there are a few courses around the PGA Tour that has bent and Poa annua. So we'll want to make sure we filter out the correct courses to make sure we look at the correct putting data. Bent and Poa annua throughout the collars, approaches. Fairways are a mix of Bermuda and Poa annua with a little bit of ryegrass overseed. The rough is bluegrass and ryegrass. Not kept very long, as you can see, only 2.5 inches long. The greens here at Silverado, slightly smaller than the PGA Tour average, 5,400 square feet here at Silverado. So, nothing terribly noteworthy like Pebble Beach or Harbor Town. They are slightly smaller. Not a whole lot of fairway, but these fairways are fairly wide, at least wide enough. Not a whole lot of rough, and the rough is not kept very long, so it's not very, very difficult to play out of. Only 2 holes with water in play, not a whole lot of bunkers. Some notes specifically around Silverado here. All par 3s were laser leveled. Par 3 tees were laser leveled. 15 yards were added to number 15. The fairways were widened a little bit on a couple holes. They do have some different tournament routing as opposed to if members or guests were to play the course. But yeah, that is a look at Silverado, specifically the North Course, in terms of a GCSAA tournament fact sheet. So again, the big takeaways here are very short. Par 72. We're going to look at bent and Poa annua greens. Not very tricky greens. from what I remember. Not a whole lot of water in play. Pretty straightforward course here at Silverado. So we'll move to Fantasy National. And let me get this to the last 36. As I mentioned, the majority of the American Ryder Cup team, and from what we've gathered in terms of we as in the general public can gather, is that this was an urging by Captain Keegan Bradley. 10 of the 12 American Ryder Cup players are in the field this week for the Procore. Mainly, as you see at the very top, Scotty Scheffler. Scheffler is very, very well known for taking the fall off, and the majority of the top tier talent in the PGA Tour take the fall off, or maybe play one or two events at most. But not the case, at least this week. 10 of the 12 are playing. The only two that are not, Bryson, for obvious reasons, being on live, not eligible to play, and Xander Schauffele has decided not to play this week. Otherwise, all of the American Ryder Cup team is here. Scotty, Ben Griffin, Cameron Young, JJ, Sam Burns, Harris English, Russell Henley, Patrick Cantlay, Justin Thomas. I mean, the American team is here. Colin Morikawa, down here at the very bottom, caught my eye. These guys are here going to get what I'm assuming is going to be a good warm-up for the Ryder Cup. You will see a few players starred. These three, and then who is the fourth? Bud Cauley. So I'm going to start with Bud Cauley because he's separated from the others. But Bud Cauley, Kevin Yu, Norman Xiong, and I believe it's Tyler Duncan, although I could be mistaken with that. Kevin Yu, Norman Xiong, Bud Cauley, and Aaron Baddeley. Those four specifically. So, again, Kevin Yu, Norman Xiong, Bud Cauley, and Aaron Baddeley have already withdrawn. They have decided not to play this week at the Procore after originally committing to play last Friday. Any of these other players that are starred, Tyler Duncan, Troy Merritt, Brandon Wu, etc., are alternates at the moment. And you can see down here, it's been updated. There was a little bit of some blacked out data for guys that they had just added today, but it has been since incorporated. So do make a note of that. Those four players have withdrawn. Let's go ahead and take a look at just some overall, overarching metrics as we start our week and start the FedEx Fall, get back into the routine of preparing for golf tournaments. Your top performers in the past 36 rounds, and again, this could go back quite a bit of ways. Let's see, 4. And again, for whatever reason, the Tour Championship isn't in here. So that takes another 4 rounds that could go further back. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. So for Scotty's going all the way back to the PGA Championship. I know it's not great. I mean, that's 3 months or 4 months ago, but just to get a baseline to see how these guys ended the PGA Tour season. Your top performers in the field this week at the Procore: Scotty, Akshay, Tom Kim, Ben Griffin, Cam Young, JJ Spawn, Sam Burns, Cameron Champ, Isaiah Salinda, and Harris English are your top 10 in terms of performance in the last 36 rounds. One thing we know for sure, this is a short course, measuring under 7,200 yards, even as a par 72. It looks like I'm going to have to increase the time frame, as there's just not a whole lot of data here. So if we incorporate 2024 as well, your top performers in the field this week at the Procore on short courses, courses measuring less than 7,200 yards. Tom Kim, Akshay, Isaiah Salinda, only 7 rounds, so be cognizant of that. Definitely don't want to value that as high as maybe someone like Tom Kim or Batia, who's played short courses much more often. But Zalinda has played very well in limited time on short courses. Justin Thomas, Scotty, Ben Griffin, Russell Henley, Patrick Cantley, Keith Mitchell, and Mark Hubbard are your top 10 in terms of performance on short courses. Before we get too much further talking about ease or difficulty, let's go ahead and take a look at the course breakdown in Fantasy National. And when you take a look at Silverado, you see the front 9 loaded with par 4s. Only one par 5 on the front. Plays to about a third of a shot, or a little bit better than a third of a shot under par. Decent scoring opportunity, 2.5 eagles, 40% birdies. But the rest of the par 5s, minus maybe 15, present pretty darn good scoring opportunities. Now the par 5 fifth, the only par 5 on the front, is the easiest hole on the course, and you can see it is the shortest par 5 here at 538. But the par 5s do present good scoring opportunities. Par 5 12th, 3/10 of a shot under par. Good eagle rate, good birdie rate. Par 5 15th, a little bit less. Hardest par 5 here, 2/10 of a shot under par. Not a whole lot of eagles, just a good birdie rate. And then the par 5 18th, again, 3/10 of a shot. Not a whole lot of eagles, but a good birdie rate. Contrast that with a couple of holes really that are difficult, where you have the difficult par 3 11th, 1600ths over par, the fairly long par 4 9th, 458, par 3 2nd, 197. So 2 of the 3 hardest holes here at Silverado are par 3s. This is not an easy course, at least in terms of scoring. Now, it's definitely not difficult. I will say that. Oh, wrong tab. So last year played completely average. The year before that, you did have a round of easy, but played mostly average. The year Sahith Tagala won. 3 years ago, 3 rounds of average. Now, you had a full year of easy. The first year Max Homa wins for a full year of average. It's mostly average in terms of difficulty, at least by scoring by par. So I don't want you to come in thinking that, these guys light this course up. In fact, if we take a look at some of the winning scores, our defending champion is Patton Gazire, who shot 20 under, which is good, but second was 15. So he kind of ran away from everybody last year. Sahith, 16 into that was Sahith. I thought. Is Sahith's not in here? Probably not, because it is probably labeled under Fortinet. Oh, that's weird. Max Homa winning at 16. Max Homa winning at 19. But you're not seeing these gaudy numbers like you saw at the BMW, like you see at the Century, like you see at TBC Craig Ranch. You don't see these 28, 30 unders. Yeah, you'll get maybe a couple of winners that'll creep into the low 20s, but mostly it's 16, 17, 18 under gets you in very, very good contention to win here at the Procore. Almost said the Fortinet. At the Procore. Only because I am quite interested. Let's see. Sahith Tagala, when he won the Fortinet, he shot 21. So, again, good scores around here, but nothing astronomical. This is not a birdie fest in the typical sense. We move into strokes gained by shot type. A lot of putting. A lot of putting. Despite me going on about this not being a birdie fest, putting still rules the roost here around Silverado. And around the green is quite even with off the tee. My guess is that a lot of this is coming in with these 3 par 5s on the back 9. All of the professionals are going at these par 5s and 2 since there's only 2 holes with water in play. You move up the leaderboard. Around the green is highly more important than off the tee. And then for your winners, off the tee is basically a negligible factor. You're making a lot of putts around the green. It's surprising to see, and we'll go more into this tomorrow on the Data Dive show, but I can't argue with it here. The winners have performed very, very well around the green, and their off the tee is basically negligible. We'll see how that plays in the data, especially tomorrow. But a lot of putting is what I'm trying to get at with that. A lot of putting. Moving to strokes gained by hole by par, as you would expect, professionals are going to take advantage of par 5s, so they are dominating in terms of strokes gained. Moving up the leaderboard, surprisingly, par 5s, or the par 3s and the par 4s kind of catch the par 5s. But then for your winners, they're still taking advantage of the par 5s, but they're playing these par 3s very, very well. Now, 2 of the 3 hardest holes are par 3s, so they're probably getting their pars on them. Actually, 3 of the 4 hardest. My apologies. So the 3rd hardest, 4th hardest, and hardest hole on the course are par 3s, and then the only par 3 on the back plays right under par. So some difficult par 3s here. If you're getting par on the par 3s here at Silverado, you're gaining on the field. So they're probably playing those par 3s pretty well, which could lend itself to some long iron accuracy or long iron proximity. 182, 212, 197, 189. Some long iron proximity, despite the fact that this course isn't long, maybe should be a factor or a consideration in our thought process early this week. Hole composition, as I just went through, the par 3s, 3 from 175 to 200, 1 from 200 to 225. So, although I will say that 197 you can easily see moving into this 200 to 225 bucket. So, some decent, length par 3s here at Silverado. We do have 3 short par 4s. I do not believe any of these are drivable, however. You do have a tenth of a percent eagle rate at this 417 par 4 6, but that didn't even fall into that bucket. What do we have here? We have a 391, 375. So this one may be drivable. You see a 0.2% eagle rate. Maybe they move tees and pins around where it becomes drivable one of the 4 days. I can't speak to that. And then 360 here. This would be more likely the hole that would be it, considering you see a 0.5% eagle rate. So perhaps this 14th hole is the semi-drivable par 4. But 3 short par 4s, the plethora, the majority of your par 4s around Silverado fall between 400 and 450. You have one 450 to 5. That is the most difficult par 4, one of the most difficult holes on the course at 458. 1 short par 5, and then 3 mid-length par 5s. Approach shot distribution, at least compared to the PGA Tour average, a lot of wedges, which is what you would expect at a very short course like this. 19.5% from 100 to 125 versus the tour average of 12%. So a lot of emphasis on these extremely short wedges, 75 to probably 125. And again, the par 3s will fall into these ranges. You do see a few amount of 200 pluses thanks to attacking par 5s and 2. But we're going to be looking probably, depending on what the data says tomorrow, probably looking mostly at wedges. Historic cut line, it only has 2 years here. So both years it's been -2, 24 and 2023. My assumption is that they, probably factoring in a renovation that happened maybe a couple years ago. You can see the historic cut line very, very easy in 2021 where I got to -4. But you see roughly -1 to -2, which again is average. This is not a birdie fest by any stretch of the imagination. So let me bring us back to the last 2 years here. Scoring distribution, a few birdies around here, 20% birdie rate. Not a whole lot of bogeys, but you do have a few doubles. Let's see, that difficult par 3, 189. My assumption, and I can't confirm this, but my assumption is this is one of the 2 holes with water in play. And then not a whole lot of doubles the rest of the way, except for maybe the par 4 14th. Perhaps when the players get aggressive, maybe there's water or OB somewhere close, leading to a 3.5% double rate. So a little bit of some doubles. No, not a whole lot of eagles, despite this being a par 72. Not a whole lot of eagles around Silverado. Driving accuracy, at least the past couple of years, quite a bit lower, as you can see. Players are not scared to be in the rough. They just aren't. The rough is not very long, kept at 2.5 inches. Not very long, not very penalizing. This is not Bermuda rough. This is bluegrass and ryegrass. Not difficult to play out of. So professionals are not afraid to be in this rough. You can see that. Driving accuracy, very, very small compared to the average tour event. Distance is much higher. These players are just gripping and ripping driver wherever possible. Green regulation percentage, quite a bit higher than the average tour event. Scrambling percentage, much easier around here. Can see where the around the green really contributes to high leaderboard success. Scrambling is pretty darn easy around here. 3 putts per round, right about the average tour event. And then the proximity, right about average in terms of against the tour average event. So there's a look at Silverado in terms of a scorecard and graphical view here at Fantasy National. We'll go through here, take a look at some other high-level overview metrics. Let's take a look at, we did short courses. Let's see how small of a sample size this short course par 72 is. And I will definitely expand the time frame. We'll take a look at 2024. Keith Mitchell has Pebble Beach is a short par 72. The Amex definitely very short par 72, although this one is very, very easy. The RSM, the Seaside course, the main course at the RSM, which happens later in the fall, is a short par 72, and you can see the Procore there. If we go one more year, again, this is quite narrow. I don't like looking, or I'm probably not going to be using this combination of filters in my mixed condition model come Wednesday night. But on short par 72s, your top performers in the field have been Justin Thomas, Keith Mitchell, Scotty, Sam Burns, Eric Cole, Sahith Theegala, Tom Hoge, Tom Kim, Davis Thompson, and Chandler Phillips. Remove all of those. Again, I as much as I don't like using the average difficulty relative to par, this is what the Procore is. Again, not a filter that I'm going to use in the mixed condition model, but when scoring is average, relative to par, at least in this calendar year. Your top performers in the field this week: Scotty, Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, J.J. Spawn, Harris English, Patrick Fishburne, Russell Henley, Alex Smalley, Jespers Vincent, and Cameron Young are your top 10 when difficulty is average. Let's take a look at a few more specific metrics, particularly your 4 main strokes gained categories. We're actually going to skip off the tee based on what we've seen in the graphs here in the strokes gained by shot type, especially for your winners. Did not do much off the tee at all. I am actually quite interested to see how it looks for years prior. Much the same there. Your top 5s, a little bit better, and then for your winners, see the winners, more historically going 2023 and back, off the tee was something. So we'll definitely take, a longer, more in-depth look at that tomorrow in the data dive. But at least the past couple of years, the off the tee hasn't contributed much. So let's just go ahead and take a look at approach. Your top approach players in the field this week, the last 24 rounds, have been Scotty, Colin Morikawa, Ben Coles, Akshay Bhatia, Victor Puri, Sam Burns, Russell Henley, Ben Griffin, Doug Gim, and J.J. Spawn. Definitely don't want to ignore the around the green, considering how much it played a factor for the past couple of champions, and really the past couple top 5s as well. Top around the green players, I need to expand this to 36. Putnam, Henley, Kazire, Bo Hostler, Davis Riley, Scotty, Mackenzie Hughes, Matt Kuchar, Tom Kim, and Taylor Moore and Webb Simpson. Again, skipping Aaron Baddeley, he is already withdrawn from playing this week. Okay, and then need to clear that because we are going to be looking at some specific courses here. I'm going to start with Detroit, host of the Rocket Mortgage. Look at Silverado, and I will bring in both. Silverado, there it is. Silverado and TPC River Highlands, host of the Travelers. Okay, your top putters in the field this week on Bent and Poa Anna: Chandler Phillips, Justin Hadley, Taylor Montgomery, Ben Silverman, Justin Lauer, Sahith Theegala, Adam Hadwin, Matt McCarty, Matthew Riedel, Michael Thor Bjornsson. Top putters on Bent and Poa Anna. Let's take just a kind of a quick look here at a couple of other things. We'll take a look at proximity, just very, very quickly. Make sure we're filtered just to this year. We're mostly interested in these 2 ranges here. So I will sort on total procs, but we're mostly looking at these 2 very short ranges, 75 to 125, based on the graph here in Fantasy National. So somebody like Scotty, obviously. Morikawa, maybe a little bit to a lesser extent. He's been very good short, 26th in 100 to 125. Russell Henley, 34th and 1st. Ben Coles, top 25 in both. Matt Kuchar, top 25 in both. Griot, probably an honorable mention. Davis Thompson, probably an honorable mention. Top 30 in both. Norlander. Grayson Sigg, top 30 in both. Ooh, look at that. Seamus Power, 11th and 5th. So very, very good at wedge proximity. So maybe somebody to keep an eye on or keep in mind moving forward this week. So there's a few names there in terms of short wedge proximity. I do want to take a look at par 3s as well. Par threes, I'll sort again on par threes, but we're mostly looking at these two ranges here. So somebody like Scotty. I wouldn't include Morikawa. First 175 to 200, but pretty middling from 200 to 225. So Scotty strong, Russell Henley, Garrick Higgo, top 7 in both of the links of par threes here at Silverado. Sam Ryder, 18th and 1st. Putnam an honorable mention, just outside the top 25 for both. Quade Cummins, top 30 in both. Interesting. Brant Snedeker, top 30 in both. Scott Piercy, very few rounds, but it's been good at the mid to longer par threes. Damon, Brian Campbell. So there's a few names to keep in mind for the par threes. We'll move to the tournament history. Strokes gained total tab. This is performance at the Procore, formerly the Fortinet, formerly the Safeway, the past few years, specifically the past 5 years. You see your strokes gained total leader is Sahith Theegala. Like I mentioned, winner 2 years ago, top 10 last year, top 10 the year before winning. Generally just played very, very well around here. Again, no surprise, California guy, used to that style of golf out there. Much the same for Max Homa. 2-time winner, top 10. Did miss the cut last year. Max Homa has been struggling. That's no secret around, diehard golf fans. But he has played very, very well here in the not-so-distant past. Matt Kuchar, somebody who popped a couple times, particularly with those wedge proximities, has been very, very consistent here. 3 top 15s, one of them being a top 10. Tom Hoge has been pretty solid here. Top 10 last year, top 15. Some other notable names here. Spawn has been okay. A lot more of his success, a little bit further in the past. Grayson Sigg, 3 top 30s, a top 5 last year. Defending champion Patton Kizzire, not a whole lot here. Winner, but wasn't particularly strong before that. And in fact, look at the top 2 in terms of strokes gained. 43 and 37, and then it falls off rapidly. Falls off precipitously. I mean, third most is Kuchar at 24 and a half. So, top 2 in terms of strokes gained total, and then a big, big drop. And not a whole lot separating a lot of these players in terms of strokes gained. Justin Lauer, 2 top 10s. Interesting. Lipsky runner-up last year. Some other notable names here. Justin Thomas. Only 1 time in the past 5 years, but I'll tell you, he's played pretty well around here if you go back a lot further. Like if we just look at the Procore, and it doesn't even come up. If you look at the Fortinet, top 5, top 5, top 10, top 5. He's been very good here at Silverado. Very good on POA, which I believe Fantasy National technically lists this as. So somebody to keep in mind this week, as he's had a lot of historical success. Only 1 time recently, but a whole lot of historical success. Fishburne played only once. Finished 3rd, solo 3rd here last year. Ben Silverman solo 4th. Ben Ons has a tie for 4th. So there's a look at some of the players who have played well around Silverado. Players who have not played well. Norlander, Neesmith. These guys that are straight flushers with their irons, but they really struggle putting. And we saw how much putting was a big, big factor for the players in the top 10s, 5s, and so forth. So no surprise to see these two, as good as their irons are, If you're struggling putting, not going to be very, very solid here. No surprise to see Cameron Champ struggling in that regard, although he is a former winner, historically here. Kevin Yu, another player that is very good with the irons, not very good putting. Let's see. Let's find some other notable names here. Gary Woodland, 1 for 2, leaving a lot to be desired in terms of success. Cameron Young, only 0 for 1. Seamus Power, 0 for 1. Nico Echeverria, 0 for 3. Trying to find some other, bigger names perhaps. Ben Griffin, 0 for 1. There's just, you can see a lot of first-time players here. Particularly the big guns, Patrick Cantley. I don't believe Scotty Scheffler has played here. Scotty's not played here. Morikawa's played here to a little bit of, some minor success, but generally not a tournament where a lot of the bigger names come and play. So there's a look at some of the players that have and have not played well around Silverado. But that's going to be pretty much it in terms of a a research show. Reminder: the Data Dive show will be tomorrow night. We'll take a much more in-depth look at where a lot of these strokes gained are coming from, where the top of the leaderboard seems to find their success around Silverado. I'll give you a sneak peek here in terms of the early look file. I'll try and have some research out regarding the matrix and what form these players were in coming into the Procore. But that's going to be it for an initial research show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, watching, listening, supporting the channel by liking the videos, commenting, subscribing. I always appreciate it. I love what I do, taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician and data analyst view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. Feel free to put into the comments any success you have had over the past 3 weeks that have not been live, whether that's college football, pro football, which started this week. How was your tour championship? Would love to be able to shout out members of the community who have success. Thanks again for all the support, for all of the wagers you have made in the 3 weeks that I've been away, for all the DFS contests you played in the 3 weeks that I've been away. And until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable.